So, on to the lecture. Today we're talking about language and social relations, human communication, linguistics, and sociolinguistics. We talked a little bit earlier in the class about human language and the way that it is different than animal language, because now we're starting to realize that a lot of different animals too also have languages, but they're different, and here's are some of the ways that human language is unique. Human language is symbolic. All these different words, symbolic, displacement, productivity, I'm going to want you to know. So, what do we mean by human language is symbolic? An object, gesture, sound, or image that stands for some other idea or concept or object. Something that has meaning, particularly when meaning is arbitrary and conventional and thus culturally relative. So, one example I'm going to use quite a bit is a stop sign or a stoplight. For whatever reason, we've decided that red means stop. The stop sign and the stop light don't really have a lot of instructions. The stop sign says stop, obviously, but the stop light just shows you a red light, and we've all decided as a culture that red means stop, and it wouldn't. There's nothing about the color red that would automatically make us think stop. Maybe we would think it means danger or warning or faster. It could mean anything, but it stands for something else. Another thing we talked about with about symbols, there's nothing about the word stop. Forget the color. There's nothing about the word stop that has any relationship to the meaning, which is to halt forward movement, right? And so that's what we mean by language is symbolic, and it's arbitrary. We could all decide in other languages, stop means the word for stop is totally different, and it doesn't matter that those sounds, sound different than our word stop. It's just that the sounds are arbitrary, but it stands for something else. And this is important because animal language, the animals that do have language, aren't really able to make these arbitrary connections between sounds and meanings in the same way that humans are able to. A cry for help sounds sad from a dog. That there's a connection between that sound and a bark. An angry animal sounds angry intuitively. We don't have to learn what that sound means. It means the animal is angry and we should probably get away from it. So the other difference is displacement. Language can refer to things that are not present. So let's take an example of a chimpanzee. A chimpanzee might be able to have not a conversation, but they might be able to talk to another chimpanzee and say, tiger, everybody, quick, there's a tiger, tiger. And it's true that some animal communities do have specific sounds they make when a certain kind of predator is around. So certain chimpanzees will have a call for a tiger, and they'll also have a different call that means eagle because they get predated from eagles as well. So they have these two different things. However, displacement, what that means is that a chimpanzee can't have a conversation and say, hey, I saw a tiger 2 weeks ago by the river. Be careful next time you go down there. They aren't able to talk about tigers. It's something that's not physically present at the time when they're having the conversation. So they're not able to displace. That's just referring to things that are not present. Okay? And productivity. Productivity is the capacity of a language to combine meaningless sounds to create new words, or to combine words to create new utterances. So, right now, I bet you could probably come up with some sentence that you've never heard before. It is possible for you to create a sentence that you've never heard anyone else say. The chicken runs through the forest with clouds over its head. I've never said that before. I've actually never heard that sentence before, but I know what all those words mean. I know their combination, and I know how to combine that. And so you can create new words. I'm sorry, you can create new sentences and new utterances. Now, if anybody's been learning a language recently or has ever learned another language, one of the phases you go through is being not productive. You might know a whole lot of words, studied, and you might memorize several hundred words, and you also might know several phrases. If you're learning some other language, you might be able to say hello, thank you, goodbye, how much is it, where's the bathroom. But that doesn't mean that you're productive in that language. You don't yet know how to combine all those different words that you know into a meaningful sentence. Okay? So you're not yet productive. But humans, once you get to a certain level, are productive with their language. We can create new sentences that other humans will be able to understand, and animals cannot do this. Another thing that this isn't necessarily specific to human language, but some other animals obviously have onomatopoeia. But onomatopoeia is kind of fun to think about. It's just that a sound where there is a direct relationship between the sound and what it means. So this is sort of the opposite in a lot of ways of symbolism, where it's non-arbitrary. And I like talking about onomatopoeia because the Korean language actually has more onomatopoeia in it than just about any other language. So um, we have words like a babbling brook and a cascading river, and these sort of these words that sort of have a sound that's similar to the way that the sound of the water might be depending on the speed of it. But Korean language has like 20 different words that all mean water flowing, and the sounds are all different depending on the speed. So some other examples of onomatopoeia are boing. It sounds like a spring. Splash. It sounds like the sound, like the action it's describing. Drip, drizzle, bark. But even though these sounds like the thing they're trying to describe, they're not all the same in every culture. So if anybody here knows another language, you might think, well, what does a dog say in that other language? The only other language I know is Korean, and in Korean, a dog doesn't say bark bark or woof woof. In Korean, a dog says mung mung. Now, it's a totally different sound, and so in that way, it's somewhat arbitrary, but it does sort of sound like the sound a dog would make when it's barking, mung 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 mung. And a frog, instead of saying ribbit ribbit, would say geguri geguri. And I'm going to pause there.